Welcome to the Word on Wednesday. This is your midweek online Bible study and devotion at Maxwell Christian Church for Wednesday, May 13th, 2026. Before I continue our series of Old Testament personalities and looking at the life of Moses, I want to thank you for your understanding when we had to bypass the Word on Wednesday last week. I was fighting off a virus. I usually tape this on Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday morning, depending on the rest of my schedule. And late last Tuesday morning, I started feeling nauseous and aching and chilling all over. Started running a fever, and so I was just hit the bed for 2 days. And I really missed putting this together. But I'm so glad to be able to be back with you today. And again, thank you for your understanding last week. Now, ever since January the 1st, we've been looking at what I've termed Old Testament personalities. Not just heroes, but personalities, because they have victories and failures. We've been looking at them in this video series. I really don't have a set schedule. I'm just going along as they come along. But I'm just enjoying so much seeing some of these personalities in a different light and seeing how they relate to us today, because there's so many great lessons that we can learn from some of these Old Testament personalities. Now, Moses is undoubtedly one of the greatest leaders of God's people throughout the Bible. We remember him as the one who led the Israelites out of Egypt. God used Moses in incredible ways to accomplish his purpose. Just in reading the account of Exodus, it's just an amazing history. If you saw that movie, The 10 Commandments, you may have gotten just a little glimpse of what God did through Moses. Because, that movie was considered one of the all-time greats and really pushed the limits of technology back in the 1950s. But I'm sure that what they did just scratched the surface of what the people in Egypt, what the Jews in Egypt actually saw when Moses led them out of Egypt. And God used Moses to do that. But the thing that gets me every time I consider the life of Moses is he didn't want to go. He really didn't want to go. He was 80 years old when God called him. And he'd been tending his father-in-law's flocks for 40 years. He was happy where he was. Life was good. Everything was going good. But God appeared to him in the form of a burning bush and said, I want you to go before Pharaoh and lead my people out of Egypt. And I'm sure that Moses felt exactly as we do when we're confronted with a major task. What Moses felt was, I can't do that. Get somebody else. That's what Moses was saying in Exodus chapter 3, which we looked at 2 weeks ago, and what he continues to look at in Exodus chapter 4. Look at what he said in Exodus 4:1. Then Moses answered, but behold, they will not believe me or listen to my voice, for they will say, the Lord did not appear to you. Man, doesn't that sound like us today? No one will believe me. That was Moses' excuse. And God answered him quickly. He told him, he said, you throw your staff on the ground. So Moses did, and it became a snake. He said, pick it up. He did, and it became a staff again. He told Moses, said, put your hand in your cloak. He did, and pulled it out, and it was full of leprosy. He said, put it in your cloak again. Put it in, came out, and he was clean. What God was saying, look, I've got the power. I've got your back. I've got your back. But Moses still didn't want to go. Exodus chapter 4 and verses 8 and 9. If they will not believe you, God said, or listen to the first sign, they may believe the latter sign. If they will not believe even those two signs or listen to your voice, you shall take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground, and the water you shall take from the Nile will become blood on the dry ground. But Moses would not stop. He just wouldn't stop. If you go on down to Exodus 4:10, look what he says. But Moses said to the Lord, "Oh Lord, I am not eloquent, either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of tongue." In other words, I can't talk to people. I can't. Let me assure you that Moses does not have a monopoly on that excuse. I took my first church in 1978. It was part-time when I was in school. And over the years, I've heard that same thing so many times. And sometimes I just want to shake my head and scream. Look at what God told Moses. Because God wasn't going to listen to Moses and I can't talk. I'm slow of speech. Look what God told Moses. Then the Lord said to him, "Who has made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be your mouth and teach you what to speak." But Moses still wouldn't stop. Look at against verse 13. He's basically saying, please send someone else. Please send someone else. And God got angry. He was angry by this time, and he sent Moses' brother with him to help back him up. Of course, we know that everything turned out way okay. Everything turned out okay. I can sometimes relate to this, or I can often relate to this story, because there's so many that need to quit making excuses. I've done it myself in the past. I'm sure I still do without even thinking about it. We like to make excuses. Say, I can't do that. Folks, just stop. Just stop. Moses' last excuse was send somebody else. Just stop. God gave us all a task to go into the world and make disciples of the nations. We have that responsibility. Folks, I've been working with you at Mac for a little over 3.5 years now. And one thing that just jumped out at me when I came to Macville was the demographic. Macville is not your typical small town or rural church. The makeup is much, much younger. It's much younger, somewhat more professional. In fact, since I've been at Macville, we've had guest speakers, and nearly every one have made that same comment to me about our makeup being much younger. Now, I realize that there are some that are taking on roles, and folks, I am thrilled about that. Some that are taking on those roles, but some aren't. Some of us in our congregation like to hide behind our busy schedules, but some we're all busy. When I look at Moses' reaction to God, I see so many of us today. We can find every excuse, but really what it boils down to is that we're basically saying the same thing that Moses did. Get somebody else to do it. I love Macville Christian Church. We're coming up on 200 years of ministry here. Folks, that's just, I can't convey how amazing that is. I've shared with you that Macville can trace its roots directly to the Great Cane Ridge Revival of 1801. And according to the last records I've seen, which were published in 2023, Mackville is one of the 5 oldest continually meeting churches, Christian churches and churches of Christ, one of the 5 oldest in the state of Kentucky, and one of the 25 oldest in the United States. That's a huge feather in our cap, but it's a much more. It's a tribute to the people who over years have answered that call time and again around Mackville, and we have to continue. There's one other thing I want to leave you with today. God's kingdom needs workers badly. Churches around the world can't fill pulpits. They can't fill staff positions because of the lack of workers. Let's encourage young people to consider this. Really encourage them. Some of you might even be in your career, but maybe thinking, maybe I need to do more for the Lord. Maybe God's calling me. It's never too late. Encourage people. Encourage our young people. You know, it bothers me that sometimes people out of their own selfishness don't want their children to go away. And I can understand that. But I also know that the Lord's work demands an even greater commitment. Let's not sell ourselves short. Let's not sell our family short. Let's not sell our young people short. Let's remember what God said to Moses. Exodus chapter 4, verses 11 and 12. Then the Lord said to him, "Who has made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what to speak." Let's go. Let's really let go. Really let God love and lead us to great things for Him. Folks, I love you very much. I can't wait to see you Sunday at Mackville Christian Church. See you for Sunday school at 9:30 and worship at 10:30. Take care. See you then. Bye-bye.